Too many times we stand aside and let the waters slip away. So what we put off to tomorrow has finally come today. So don't stand upon the shoreline and say you're satisfied. Choose to chance the rapids and dare to dance the tide. Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. This is Maxwell Ivy, known around the world as the Blind Blogger. I want to welcome you to another episode of What's Your Excuse? Find it all at theblindblogger.net, which is where you can also purchase a copy of my latest book, The Blind Blogger's New York City Adventures, How You Can Make Your Dreams Come True. And today I have another great guest, and I'm hoping he's going to teach y'all something, but more importantly, I hope he's going to teach me something, because his name is Chris Backe. He is creator of a website called Becoming a Digital Nomad. He has been a digital nomad himself since 2013 and was an expatriate English teacher for 5 years before then. He is now not only a digital nomad, but he's a web developer. He's a blogger. He's also a digital nomad consultant. And I'm going to be interested to hear more about that and give him a chance to tell you more about that. So without any further distractions, I want to welcome Chris to the show. Like I said, y'all can find him at becomeadigitalnomad.com. Thank you, Chris.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right.
Love that you open things up with Garth Brooks. I just love that.
Well, you're the first person since I started doing that who recognized it without me telling him who he was.
Oh no! I love Garth Brooks growing up. He's just a nice classic blend of timelessness and rock. So yes, I love that you opened the show with that. Yes, I am keeping a new website called Becoming a Digital Nomad, and on it, my goal is to help people not just become a digital nomad, but to create a life for themselves that is of their choosing. We use the term digital nomad as a way of kind of expressing two main thoughts here. On one level, there's the freedom to work where you want and to do the type of work you want. Then there's also the freedom to travel as you like. So we've heard the terms lifestyle design or remote work, and both of those kind of cover one aspect of that. But a digital nomad, that term at least, kind of covers both halves. We work as we like, we travel as we like. So at the end of the day, that is the term that seems to cover the lifestyle the best.
Right, and when I was reading on your brand new website, one of the things that jumped out at me I actually liked was you had a section about who digital nomad lifestyle isn't for, and you were like, if you're somebody who's happy with schedules, who's happy with routine, or if you're somebody running away from something, digital nomad, this lifestyle is not for you. And I thought that was a great thing you did that most people wouldn't have done.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and it should be clear from the very beginning. You know, the nomad lifestyle is for a lot of people. Whether you're tired of working at a cubicle, whether you're ready to explore, whether you're ready to feel like you really want to do something with your life, then that's certainly there. But it's not the lifestyle is not a panacea for everyone. It's not a thing that will fix all of your woes or whatnot. So, you know, I would rather the people that think it's something that will fix all of their woes, or if you're not willing to kind of take a leap of faith here, if that's not you, then thank you for your time. I wish you the very best of luck with life, but this book is not for you. So,
well, I mean, you know how this goes. Generally, once somebody becomes a thing and they start doing the coaching in that area, they have this approach that what I'm telling people to do is great for everybody. And that was the point I was trying to get to.
Yeah. So if you're tired of the 9-to-5 lifestyle, if you're ready to test a new lifestyle out, if you want to explore the world, take control of your life, this is something to listen up to. So.
All right. Now let's go back to the beginning. Your site mentions that you were teaching abroad for 5 years before you went all in as a digital nomad. When did this idea that you were going to live and work in other places, when did that hit you? When did that become something you're like, I know I got to do this?
Okay, so I guess I should go back to around 2006, 2007. I had graduated college 2004 with a business degree, and I did the same thing every 20-something American does when they graduate college. You get out, you start finding a job, you try to settle down, you date, you start saving for a house, and I just couldn't find jobs that fit. Could not. I worked as a mattress salesman for a while. I was an accountant with the Kentucky state government. I delivered newspapers. I taught computer classes at the local library. And at some point, I kind of wanted out. This is not the lifestyle I wanted. And I was looking around, and no one around me seemed to feel the same way. So eventually I started looking for jobs. I think it was hotjobs.com of all places. And there was a job teaching English in South Korea. And of course, the first thing you think of when you think about that, wait, can I do that? Is that possible? You know, you look at the guidelines, you need a bachelor's degree in any discipline. Some teaching experience is helpful but not required. And you need the willingness to come to South Korea for a year. So I sent off my resume, put together a list of answers to their questions, and the next day I got a call from the recruiter, who was basically just confirming information on my application. He set me up for an interview a few days later, and a week later I had a job in South Korea. So it was just a matter of getting the visa paperwork together at that point. And then from there, March 22nd, 2008, I left the U.S. For a new life in South Korea. So to continue from there, after teaching English for about 5 years, during which time I grew the travel blog to one of the biggest English language travel blogs. It was called Chris in South Korea at the time. I met a girl, lovely Canadian lady who's also a teacher. We got married in Seoul, South Korea, and then decided to strike out and see what the world might hold for us as nomads. Myself as a blogger and web developer, photographer, kind of a jack of all trades, if you like. My wife is a translator, and we started that lifestyle in 2013.
Did you ever have the time when you're like, I'm not going to do this, or I shouldn't do it, or what the heck am I doing?
Since leaving Korea, no. It's always been the sort of thing where it's just a question of what's the next thing? What do I want to do? What's the thing I really want to see happen? What do I want to accomplish? Maybe it's something you want to build. Maybe it's something you want to experience. I guess at one level, the thought of not being a nomad has just got to the point, well, what else would I do? Go back to a 9-to-5? Go back to an office job in a cubicle and do what, wear a dress shirt for 40 hours a week? Hell no.
Yeah, and I should tell the viewers that before we started this recording, Chris had to go put on a shirt, and he told me, he said, when you're a digital nomad, you don't wear pants unless you have to. So, and since I'm blind and can't see this, I'm glad that he not only informed me, but actually went and put on some clothes for me. So, because that could have been fun. You could have had some fun with the blind guy. You could have said,
"Oh no, sir, no, sir, no, sir."
Shirtless, and when this goes live, we will have some fun with it. And the sad thing is, I would have been down for that. I would have went for that.
This is how we make a podcast go viral, okay?
That would have been cool. That would have been totally fine with me, because people would have done one or two things when that went live. They would have either said, Max, you're talking to a digital nomad. The guy is obviously living his life. It's so cool that he did the interview shirtless. Or it's, Max, did you know the guy didn't have on a shirt? Way, I would have had fun with it. So,
well, you know what we ought to do? So at some point, I might have to start a new blog called The Naked Blogger, like The Naked Chef or whatever else like that. So we'll have the blind blogger interview the naked blogger, or vice versa. And you just, in the webcam, you just see there's obviously no shirt, and you're left to wonder about what else is.
Yeah.
No, but if there's one thing I want people to take away from that, it's that as a nomad, you choose how you live. You choose what you wear. You choose when you get up. You choose where you live. I choose it all. And this is a level of responsibility you may not be comfortable with, you might not be ready for, because when you choose it all, every decision that doesn't happen the way you want it to, you can't blame it on your boss. You can't blame it on your coworkers. You can't blame it on the lady that, messed up your coffee order. You choose it all.
And that's a great comment you made there at the end, because there's that famous video or clip from a movie. I forget which movie, where the guy says that the coffee bar is a place designed for people who can't make decisions, because it makes them feel good because they've made a dozen small decisions in a very short period of time.
Exactly. Now you still have to give yourself credit for decisions made correctly. And you'll always have more choices to make. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? How do you want to make money? How do you want to live your life? So all of those things kind of come together when you're thinking about the best way to enjoy this lifestyle.
Okay, so let's go to the heart of that then. Do you have any advice or tips for people on making decisions?
That's a good question. The simple answer is, you always want to be thinking one or two steps ahead of where you are now. Famous chess players are always talking about how they're looking 5 or 6 moves ahead. If I do this, and then they do that, and then I do this, so several moves ahead of the game. I would submit you can't always know that as a nomad. You can kind of focus on what's important to you now, followed by what's important to the people in your life. So I'm married. I have to consider my wife in every decision I make, from where we go to what we do, to when we spend time together, to when there's networking events. So I have to make time for her. So I also, for the same reason, I don't go on Tinder. You won't find me, looking for friends on an online profile like that. So, your lifestyle, let me rephrase that. Your choices are determined by, the lifestyle you want to live. And thinking a step or two ahead is going to help that. But you also have to take into consideration all of the other things that might come up. So right now it's the burning season in Chiang Mai, the season where a lot of farmers are literally setting fire to their fields, and it creates a lot of air pollution. So right now, Chiang Mai, Thailand is usually a really good place to go. It's a great digital nomad hub. But because it's the burning season, anyone that's used to kind of clean air is going to find Chiang Mai a harder place to live for like this springtime, February, March, April, if I recall correctly, this time. So, sort of taking in a whole view of a city or a country when you go to a place. So.
That's interesting. I hadn't even thought about that, but we used to have the same thing here in the southern part of the U.S., in Louisiana and Texas, where they used to grow sugar and rice, and to some point Florida. At a certain time of year, they would set the fields on fire because it was the safest way to harvest the sugar cane.
Exactly, and I think it does the same thing where it's just a matter of trying to destroy the insects that might be potentially eating your crops and whatnot. So.
Yeah, well, here it was snakes. We have
boy.
a lot of very poisonous snakes that like to live in the places, in the swamps and the bogs where the rice and the sugar are grown. So that was the purpose here. But what you're saying is for a digital nomad, on the surface, being in Thailand right now would be very inexpensive. If your number one priority is your cost metrics, then I can't pronounce the name of the city. Where you just said
Chiang Mai
is an ideal place to be right this minute. But if if your health is more important to you than your total bottom line, then it's not a good place. So it's a lot of decisions, a lot of factors you have to take into account. I've found in my limited travels that another thing that really helps somebody who's living on the road is a very high degree of flexibility and acceptance. What do you think?
It is definitely helpful in terms of mobility. Nomads will find themselves living out of anything from a 40-liter backpack to a checked bag, a carry-on bag, a computer bag. Mobility for a nomad is part of the freedom. You have the choice to travel. You choose where to go. You choose to take your time and spend your time in a way that services you, that helps you accomplish the things you want to do. So yeah, mobility is going to be a big part of it. What was the rest of your question?
I was asking about flexibility because
okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was asking about flexibility because it seemed to be important to me personally. I was wanting to see how you thought about it.
Yeah, well, I think what helps when you're thinking about flexibility as a nomad, the question often comes up, well, where do you want to go? I don't know. Where do you want to go? I don't know. Where do you want to go? So you've heard this debate from couples and dates and stuff. It's no longer about where you're going for lunch. It's about, well, which country do you want to go to? I don't know. Which country do you want to go to? So definitely helps being flexible because, again, what we were talking about earlier, a decision to go to a place might be based on a lot of factors. You might have cost of living. You might have good food. You might have the ability to network with a lot of people. But yeah, being flexible is very important to not just to making decisions, but also really for your sanity. Like if you're traveling with someone, their decisions need to come first, and thinking about what they need as well. So you might choose to travel places that you might not be your first choice, but it makes them happy. So your listeners have probably heard the term happy wife, happy life. I am happy to confirm this is true. So
yeah, now you were telling me earlier that right now y'all are visiting in Eastern Europe, and one of the reasons that you're there is because of the visa procedures or something that are different than other parts of Eastern Europe or Western Europe?
Okay, sure. So most of Europe, if you are American or Canadian, most of Western Europe is part of the Schengen zone. And for listeners not familiar with that, the Schengen zone is basically like a one-country zone, wherein if you go from Italy to a neighboring country or from Germany to a neighboring country, it's like crossing a state border or crossing a provincial border. They're not going to do all the border and passport controls because the Schengen zone is treated as one country. So if you're American or Canadian, you get 90 days in the Schengen zone as a tourist, and then you have to leave for 90 days. Now, it's an easy thing to do because you just show up, you show your passport, you flash the person a smile, they stamp your passport, and you're in. The catch is that 3 months is not nearly enough time to explore the dozens of countries that you think of when you think of Western Europe. So a lot of countries in Eastern Europe, and by Eastern Europe I'm talking about Romania, Serbia, Bulgaria, Croatia, Macedonia, the other countries that kind of make up that
in-between zone between Russia and Western Europe?
Exactly. Yeah, that in-between zone, the Balkans and so on. A lot of those countries have their own visa policies. They're not yet part of the Schengen zone. And sometimes that's a political reason. Sometimes that's Europe isn't quite ready for them, or they're not quite ready for Europe yet. So this is a great opportunity for people that want to go to Europe, but want to go for more than 3 months. So, for example, we arrived in Zagreb, Croatia. We spent 3 months in Croatia, exploring the country, staying there, enjoying life. From there, we moved to Bucharest, Romania, spent 3 months there. And so you get 3 months in each country versus 3 months for the continent. And what you could do if you wanted, you could go from Eastern Europe into the Schengen zone, which gives you 3 months there. Then you leave the Schengen zone, you go somewhere else for 3 months, and then by that point, the clock is reset on your Schengen zone time. Then you can re-enter and continue back and forth as you like.
Right. Now, see, for the people who have watched my show before, this is one of the me questions. This is one of the questions that I ask the guests because I want to know for my own personal selfish reasons. Okay. And that's one of the advantages and perks of doing my own show is if I can get people to come on this show, I get to ask them pretty much whatever I want to, and a lot of times it ends up being questions that will help me. I'm personally planning to head over to the UK in December and travel around and share my message of accomplishing big goals and dreams by finding solutions instead of making excuses. People can find out more about me at theblindblogger.net, just like they can find out more about you at becomingadigitalnomad.com. But so this stuff about the visas and stuff I didn't know, and stuff that the people who are helping me plan had not mentioned to me yet. So I appreciate that little bit of education.
Of course.
So thank you. Now, and you're right. I mean, 3 months isn't even really long enough to see the UK, much less the 20-something countries that make up that zone you're talking about.
That's true. Now that said, what's happening more and more with nomads is you sort of, as part of the planning process for travel, you're always considering, where do I want to go? How long do I want to be there? And is the length of time I want to be there suitable with the visas that are allowed? For example, you could go to Georgia, the country, not the state.
Right. I knew what you were talking about.
Okay, yeah. So you can go to Georgia for a year, up to a year as an American on a tourist visa. If you decided you want to spend more than a couple months in Thailand, you can get an education visa. You can learn Thai as part of one of the visa programs there. If you want to learn Muay Thai, the self-defense tactics, you can get an education visa for learning Muay Thai. So your questions often are based around where you want to go, how long you want to be there, and how can I accomplish this, or failing that, what's the next best scenario?
Right. Now, when you travel, do you generally travel as a tourist, a student, or do you have to declare yourself as being in the country as a part of your employment?
This is actually kind of a gray area for a lot of folks. Right now, digital nomads, the best case scenario is to tell people at the border you are a tourist. Because truthfully and honestly, what you're there in the country to do is to see the country. You are there to enjoy what the country has to offer, whether it's the history, the food, the culture, the technology, whatever it is. You are there to tour the country first and foremost. If your primary reason for being there is just to work, then still say you're a tourist anyways, because to be honest, this opens up a lot of red tape, and the world is not quite ready for the influx of nomads as they have come out. Because when you think of a work visa or trying to get a work permit, this is just a bunch of red tape, a lot of government procedures, and a lot of BS, if you ask me. So what may happen in the coming years, and Germany's already done this with an entrepreneur visa, Estonia is talking about creating some sort of digital nomad visa. What's happening more and more is some countries are getting the message that we have a group of people, they are relatively affluent, they are travel-loving people, they are going to come to our country, they are willing to pay tax, but we're not going to hire an accountant and suffer through lots of red tape to do it. In fact, a lot of mindsets for nomads is to go where you're treated best. If your government is unable to do that, then you'll go somewhere else. So, as visas go, you should always say you're a tourist for the sake of keeping it simple. And
I used to be a carnival owner. I used to travel all over the United States with a small carnival, mostly in the Southeast and Southwest. And the more I plan this, the more I promote my own books, the more I realize that a lot of things I used to do as a carnival owner still apply. Like, for example, you never told a committee that you had a carnival. You told them that you were going to bring them some children's rides, and a couple or three of them might be big enough that the parents and grandparents could ride on them too. And the other thing is when it would be wintertime, your goal on your calendar was to try to put as many dates together with as good a turnout as possible in as close a proximity to each other with as little red tape as possible. That was the Jenga game that we used to play every winter. And it's kind of like listening to you. The more I listen to you talk, the more I'm thinking, he's basically playing a big ass game of Jenga.
It is very much a game of Jenga. In some cases, the question is often, how do I ask forgiveness rather than how do I seek permission? But what's also happening is that people are kind of warming up to the notion that people are traveling, they are working as they travel, and that can be true whether you're a nomad like myself or if you're a corporate business executive that just happens to take some business calls while they're on vacation in Jamaica. So the general mindset that I have heard from government officials and also to a certain extent from other nomads has been the following. The local calculation, and this goes in Thailand especially, Thailand knows they have a lot of people coming to their country to work. But Thailand also knows that those people are spending more than the average Thai is on their housing, more than the average Thai is on their food, which means you're sort of paying what I call a tourist tax. You're paying more than the average bear is for their food, for their drink, for their coffee, for their co-working space, and these are all services provided by locals. So the calculation exactly. So the calculation is often the locals are making money off of these foreigners who are coming here to work with overseas clients. If you're ever in a position where you are taking a job away from a local, the government would more correctly consider you a threat. If you are in a position where what you are doing is essentially bringing money into a country that the locals are, they're getting money from you to, make their business bigger, which paying taxes and such, the government won't necessarily turn a blind eye to it, but they won't be as concerned about kicking you out, So long as it's not perceived, you're taking a job away from a local. And 9 out of 10 nomads are not. They're creating their own jobs. The government is quite content to take your money and let you live and work and whatever as you like, but just don't overstay your visa. Don't give them a reason to crack down on you. It's basically tip number one.
So what you're saying is as long as you are a good tourist, a good digital nomad, you generally don't have a lot to worry about from the government agencies as far as putting yourself down as a tourist and working while you're traveling. And
that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I think hearing that from you is going to really help a lot of people who are watching this, because a lot of times we fail to take action because we're afraid of all of those what ifs. And so basically you just answered an important question for a lot of people. How do I travel? Do I have to report as an entrepreneur, employee, whatever? So, I think what you just said is some very valuable advice, and I'm sure it's in the book. What is the name of the book, just to make sure I don't forget to mention it?
The name of the book is Becoming a Digital Nomad, just like the website, becomingadigitalnomad.com. It will be available on Kindle, on Amazon's platform, and also as PDF. I'm also putting the final touches on the print book, so if you prefer the feel of paper to the feel of your electronic device, that'll be available as well.
All right, now let me cover a couple of things that I saw on your website. One of them is you talk about cutting down on things, packing, preparing for leaving, how you address the people that'll be behind, belongings, apartments, stuff like that. You talk a little bit about the last few days, a few weeks before you take off on this journey.
Okay, so what the book talks about is basically a 7-step process, and I'll just summarize this real quick so you know what step I'm focusing in on. Step 1 is about knowing yourself, what you want. Step 2 is about clarifying your desires, acknowledging limitations. Step 3 is about making money while you travel. Step 4 is about getting your affairs in order. Step 5 is about gearing up and slimming down. We're talking about your stuff, not necessarily your belly here or whatever. And step 6 is about the big move, actually leaving one country and arriving in another country. Step 7 is about enjoying your new life. So sounds like you're talking about step 4, maybe step 5, getting your affairs in order. And what's happening here is this notion of we're not taking everything from our old life, if you will, with us. We are going to have to get this down to a suitcase, checked baggage, maybe a carry-on. You want to make it to where you can be as mobile as possible. And a lot of people will find this to be really challenging because I've got my grandmother's piano. I've got all this furniture. I've got this great car. What do I do with this stuff? And part of this can be considered a sacrifice. Some people, what do I do with this furniture? What do you need furniture for in a different country? They have furniture there as well. I'm sitting on a kitchen chair at a kitchen table, just like a kitchen table anywhere else in the world. They have furniture everywhere you go. You do not need to bring your own furniture with you. So really it comes down to what are the things you're going to use on a regular basis that you can't find where you're going, or the things that would be the most difficult to replace once you got there. So a great example, my laptop is probably one of the most important things I own, which means everything related to the computer needs to come with me. So that's one kind of obvious thing. You look at your closet and you go, okay, I've got 25 shirts. And my first question to you would be, how many of those shirts do you actually wear more than, let's say, once a month? You know, you might go, okay, well, I can narrow it down to about 10. That's perfect. That's great. For women, I might ask you, how many pairs of shoes do you actually need in your life? You know, you look at someone's closet.
You're asking for trouble there, man.
Oh well, that might be slow.
That's a fight waiting to have. I can't
Okay.
wait. I can't wait for your first consulting client who have to.
Funny story. I've actually done some consulting with some women, and it was a very interesting conversation because the first thing I asked them after we had kind of got to know each other was, how many pairs of shoes do you have in your closet, in your ownership right now? And she said, well, gosh, I'll have to think about that. So she literally walked away, went to her closet. She did a count. She came back to the computer, the Skype chat, and she said, I have 27 pairs of shoes. And I said, okay, thank you for the honest answer. I really do appreciate that. Let me ask you another question. If I asked you to take out from your closet all of the shoes you have worn at least once in the past year, if you've any shoes you've not worn in the past year, stay in the closet. Any shoes you have worn in the past year, if I were to ask you to take them out of the closet, put them right outside the door, how many pairs of shoes would that be? And so she went, okay, so I'll go do that. This was a bit longer because she was obviously trying to sort through stuff. She came back with 3 pairs of shoes. She came back with like a pair of tennis shoes, a pair of heels, and some other pair of shoes. And I said, okay, why do you have 27 pairs of shoes? If you're not using them, by your own admission, you're not using them. They're not a super big part of your life. Can you safely leave 90% of those behind? If you don't wear them, you're not going to use them. And let's be honest, as a nomad, going back to the not wearing pants thing, you're not going to dress up as much as you're not going to dress up as a nomad. You might because it's a nice occasion, but most nomads will take their formal wear with them and they'll find that they never use it. I can tell you the number of times I've worn a button-down dress shirt in the past 5 years. I can count the number of times on one hand and still have enough to hold a sandwich. Okay?
Yeah, so that's where I messed up. Is every time I've appeared somewhere, I've been in a dress shirt and slacks. So when I travel, I have to take a little more clothes with me, which is
Yeah.
I'm not really a clothes person. I was minimalist before minimalist became a term.
hmm Now,
Uh,
and there's something else to consider here as well. Let's say you find yourself needing to go to a fancy event. Let's say you need to go somewhere that requires suit and tie, maybe a nice formal dinner, your 25th college anniversary, whatever. There are these stores called clothing stores, and they sell these things called clothes. Go get what you need, wear it once, and then figure out what to do with it after that. Or if you're feeling
yeah,
thrifty, find your local thrift store, your Goodwill, your Salvation Army. Most countries have them. My point is you need not take stuff with you just because you think you might need it, because you
yeah.
think you might use it.
And if you're in a fairly good sized city, there's always the option of renting.
Exactly, exactly. If you
Yeah.
need that tux or that really fancy suit, there's always a chance to rent.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, so it sounds to me like when you're talking to people about preparing to go out to go as a digital nomad, it sounds to me like you also have to do a lot of coaching work in the area of decluttering their lifestyle. I'm imagining that you have like this example you just gave us. I imagine that you've walked people through quite a few of aha moments in their personal space and in their mental space as far as decluttering goes.
There's definitely a paradigm shift, and that term is kind of cliche, but there definitely is a mindset that changes when you go from thinking about what you have to what you need. And if you pack what you have, you will never leave home because that stuff is dragging you down. If you pack what you need, then you'll find yourself feeling freer, you know. And I can't, because of the nature of the calls, it's always a Skype call. I can't be there physically in their house to be like, okay, why do you have this? Why do you have that? But I can ask them, how many of these things have you used? How many of these things do you need on a regular basis? And then from there, the question becomes, what can we do with this? Can we sell it? Can we give it away? Can we give it to a trusted friend or family member for safekeeping? Um, the last thing you want to do as a nomad is to put something in a storage unit. And the main reason for that is because when you leave the States or Canada, whatever your home country is, you're going to be off on an adventure. And at some point, the storage company is going to be like, hey, you owe us $100 a month for this unit. And at some point, you're going to realize you're going to have that aha moment that you are paying a company to let gravity exist. They are doing nothing to earn this except put a box around your stuff. So this stuff isn't just stuff that didn't make you money. This is stuff that costs you money. And you remember it every freaking month that you keep it there. So it's one of those things that's better not to start if you can possibly help it. If you simply must keep grandma's piano, okay, let's think of a solution to that. Maybe you keep it in the apartment because your landlord won't mind. It adds value to their place. Win-win. Maybe you give it to your sister or your brother. Okay. Maybe you find the 8-year-old kid down the street who really wants to learn piano and mom's okay with moving it in the house. Okay. You know, there's many solutions to things that you might call problems. And it's just a matter of finding the best one for you.
Yeah. Well, see, I obviously like that approach because my whole thing is about finding solutions instead of making excuses. So I like how you went through that whole progression there, and you gave us a natural transition into making money while traveling. Let's get into that because if I don't, there'll be people sending me emails going, Max, why didn't you ask him the big question? How do we get paid while we're traveling?
Okay, so this is one of the most interesting chapters in the book because what I've done with this chapter has been to go through as many lists as I can find on the internet of ways nomads make money. And where possible, I have specifically linked to a nomad that is doing that exact thing. Okay, so with that, I have to start with a caveat that I have not tried every single one of these tactics to make money. There are almost 90 different kind of general overall categories for Pete's sake, and there's no way any one person could ever try them all. Your best bet is to start by looking at one of the categories that I have here, and the categories basically look like sales and marketing, teaching jobs, I'm a people person, technical jobs, artsy jobs for the creative types, pound the keyboard jobs, money and legal jobs, jobs where you help people travel better, offline service jobs, and then volunteering. And I know what you're thinking. You might be thinking volunteering is not a nomad thing because you're not really making money on it. To this, I would say volunteering jobs can be the sort of things that give you a free place to live, some free meals, that give you access to experiences you would not otherwise have. So imagine living in a rural place in the middle of nowhere, and just imagine seeing the stars at night. Like organic gardens are a good one possibility for that. Taking care of animals might be another thought. And then those experiences, those volunteering jobs, likely take between 15 and 25 hours a week. So basically a part-time job. What you do the other 130 or so hours of your week is up to you. So combine volunteering with something else, one of the pound the keyboard jobs, for example. So this is very much set up as almost like a buffet, like an all-you-can-eat buffet, where it's like, I want a little bit of this, I want a little bit of this. I'll taste this just a little bit to see what it's like, and you give them a try. If they fit, then wonderful. If they don't, stop.
Okay. Other than the coaching, how have you and we know about your teaching, how have you specifically provided your own income? What is
Okay.
personal?
Okay. I have personally been a web developer. I've done some web, like build your own website coaching as well. This has been kind of similar to consulting with nomads, but instead of me doing the web consulting work, this is me telling you, okay, here's how you install a plugin in WordPress. Here's how we tweak your theme of your choice. So when you hire me to do it, I do it for you and it's all done. When I teach you how to do it for yourself, you remember how to do it, you can do it yourself the next time around. Or you call me up because you want to learn something new. I've done some professional photography, and I've written books. So it's changed over the years, and it's changed with the times. Making money as a blogger has definitely been one of those things that's changed over the years. Advertising used to be a big thing. That was affiliate sales. Now sometimes it's sponsored posts. So it's one of those things you roll with the tide and see where it takes you. But on some level, there's many other ways to make something work, and it's just a matter of what interests you, what skills do you have.
All right. Now, another one of these questions I ask because I'm interested. One of the things I have been doing is I've been pitching sponsors, and I'm wondering, do you have any sponsors for your traveling? Have you ever tried to get sponsors for your traveling? And if you were going to be doing this, what are some of the things you would include in your pitch, or some of the things you would use in your approach?
Okay. I don't currently do a lot with sponsors, and part of that is because the focus of my travel blog at One Weird Globe has been the unusual, the offbeat, the bizarre, the unique sort of places. It's kind of small fry as compared to some of the other travelers that I know. I'm also not a girl that looks good in bikini, so I've tried that. It didn't work. I'm going to move on from that. No. But in many cases, it's a matter of figuring out the best way to offer a sponsor what they want. And what they often want is to be shown in a good light. They want their message to be seen by the appropriate, relevant group of people, like travelers and whatnot. And the more people you can show as converting or being responsive to your message, the better. A few years ago, it used to be that if your blog had 50,000 hits a month or 100,000 hits a month, you were golden. You were raking in the dough. You didn't have to worry about things because people would just kind of lavishly come at you. But
those were great times. I missed out. I missed out on them, but yeah, those were great times.
So what's happened over the last few years increasingly is it doesn't matter to us, as in the business, whether you have 50,000 followers. How many of them share your tweets? How many of them like your Facebook posts? How many of them respond or take action in some way? Are you inspiring people to go to the link that you're promoting, or are you just putting it out there and then crickets? So being able to show that has been more of a challenge, because like you can go to someone's Twitter page and you can see exactly how many Twitter followers they have. It's a little bit more difficult to figure out how many retweets they've had or the percentage for that. So basically, also what you want to do is you want to fit your blog to their product. My blog is not really a fit for a 5-star hotel. If you run a luxurytraveler.com, then naturally you're going to blog about 4 or 5-star hotels, really luxurious experiences, which means going to a hostel isn't really a fit for your audience. So, you're trying to find the best fit, and the best fits are going to be win-wins. I'm going to go back to Stephen Covey here, think win-win. And you have this mindset that what helps me also helps you. So begin with that thought process in mind. How can I help you meet your goals, and how can that help me with my goals as well?
Yeah. Okay. And then one other thing I want to make sure I cover before we finish is, you mentioned social media. How are you managing your social media while you're traveling, and what social media networks do you feel like are working best for you?
I barely manage it. I don't barely spend time on it now. Now.
Yeah, you're really trying to start trouble here now, man.
Yeah. I like social media. It can be a lot of fun. It can also be the biggest waste of time in my day. Whenever there's a political thing, there's a natural disaster, it can really bring out the trolls of the world. And what I've had to find myself kind of physically stop myself from doing has been, don't feed the trolls, don't interact with them. You have stuff to do, focus on that. And that can mean hiding people, that can mean unfollowing them, blocking them, whatever it is. To answer your question, no, I'm primarily on Facebook. I'm increasingly on certain subreddits on Reddit. I don't really spend that much time on Twitter anymore. Primarily Facebook, and especially Facebook groups. Okay, so if you're listening to this and you're going, Facebook groups, this is new to me. Go ahead, and next time you're on Facebook, go to the search bar at the top of the page and type in the name of your city. Either the city you're currently in, the city you want to go to, whatever. And then see how many groups come up. Because what I've found with Facebook groups is that they're a really good way of connecting with locals in a city or around a very specific interest. So if you're thinking about being a nomad with parents, there's a Facebook group for that. If you're a nomad that thinks nomads are just these 20-something, 30-something sort of folks, there are groups for nomads in their 50s and 60s. So there's likely to be a Facebook group for almost anything, for almost anywhere. And if there isn't, that's a good time to start one. So Facebook and more Reddit. The Digital Nomad subreddit has been really good. There are a few other subreddits along the same line, like Side Hustle and other nomadic subreddits that are worth reading as well. Not really on Twitter as much. I'm barely on LinkedIn, and I cannot tell you the last time I was on Pinterest, to be perfectly honest.
I should be on it more. I'm surprised that as a digital nomad that you are, and a professional photographer as well, that you aren't on Pinterest or Instagram, one or the other.
Well, I'm on it. Yeah. Well, actually, what I do with Instagram, Actually, what I do with Instagram primarily is mobile, obviously. I'll find something that's kind of unusual or weird. So on Instagram, one thing that's nice about Instagram is that you can set it up to where it will automatically post from Instagram onto your Facebook or from Instagram onto your Twitter or your Tumblr or whatever. So yeah, I'll find something weird on Instagram, but it's not a place I spend a lot of time reading other people's stuff. I'm not as social on that media as I could be or should be.
Well, I have my Twitter set up to post to my Facebook, but I had no idea that you could set up your Instagram to post to more than just Facebook. So that's something I'll have to look into.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of posting from one service to another that's possible. If this then that ifttt.com is a great service for that. The challenges can often be some social media services will let you post to them, but not post from them, or vice versa. So I can go from Instagram to Facebook to Twitter, but I cannot go from Facebook to Instagram. So
yeah,
kind of a tangled web there.
Well, I've finally come around to using Buffer, although it was one of those things that previously it was not accessible, so I didn't do much with it, but now that it is. And the other thing that's part of most people's social media, so I need to ask about is, do you have an email list, or are you primarily social media?
I've kind of fallen behind on the email list, to be perfectly honest. It hasn't been a huge priority. I need it to be, because email is a great way of connecting with people, the specific people that want to hear what you have to say. So with becoming a digital nomad, there is a place to add your email if you want to read the intro and the first step. This is about 30 pages of a 120-page book that you can get for free with just your email. So that's something you can do.
Well, here at the blindblogger.net, we're real big on free. So
there you go.
So be sure. Is it a different link, or can they sign up for that on the becomeadigitalnomad.com site?
It'll be on becomeingadigitalnomad.com. What you'll do is, there's actually a couple of questions I want you to answer. I don't want to just give this out to anyone just because I think that might be interesting. I want you to think about where you are right now in your life. And there's literally 3 questions that'll ask for your email. Once you fill those out, you'll click the link. It'll open a new window, and that'll bring up Google Docs, which lets you read it online for free. You can download the PDF. You can read it at your leisure as you like. But the questions are there because I want you to kind of begin thinking about, is this a possibility? Could this be something? I would much rather tell someone, you know what, this lifestyle is not for you. Buy the book for $10. I'm going to save you $2,000 and a lifetime of hassle. I would rather you learn that this lifestyle is not for you after reading than going down a path that will just cause you problems. I could not tell you how many people I've met that they got their one-way ticket to Thailand, and then they got there and they went, holy crap, this is not what I expected at all. It is so hard to meet people. It's so hard to make money. If you read the book, I'm going to ask you the questions you need to think about before you go. I'm going to ask you why you're doing this. And what I say on the book description is 1 part how-to, it's 1 part self-help, and it's 1 part travel guide. So it kind of fits all 3 of those categories there.
Yeah, and just for people, I want to make sure that y'all were paying attention here, because this is not something many authors will do or many coaches will do. He basically just said that he's going to ask you some questions to find out if the digital lifestyle is for you or not. And what that means is that he actually cares about whether or not this is something that would be good for you. And trust me, when I told people I was going to include my email address in my first book, they told me I was out of my damn mind, because you just don't do that. You give people opportunities to connect with you, but the problem with that is that all those people who were telling me not to do it, they were the kind of people who didn't care about the results for the reader.
Exactly.
So you are a guy who cares about the results. You want your readers to be happy, satisfied, joyous, content. You want this to be a good fit for them as opposed to just wanting to sell a bunch of $10 books. And
Exactly.
that makes you the kind of guy I like to have in my community, on my show. And when somebody says that, I like to make sure I stop and make the point that, hey, this guy is actually concerned about your welfare, and he doesn't just want to sell you stuff. And to me, that's another really great reason that you should go visit his website and get to know him. So before I finish with you, is there one thing that my computer was yelling at me in my earphones, so I distracted there for a second.
No
Is
problem.
there one thing you would like to leave people with other than what you just told them about deciding if this is a good lifestyle for them?
I'd start by, so one thing that we do at the very beginning of the book, and if you download the first step, this will look familiar. The first step starts with about 25 or 30 questions about where you are right now, what you want to do, what you want to think about. You don't have to spend any money to begin this self-evaluation process, and you don't even need that to do it. The digital nomad lifestyle is going to turn your life upside down. It's going to change how you work. It's going to change how you dress. It's going to change who you talk to. It might change the way you drink. Literally every part of your lifestyle can, will, and should change. The only thing that might feel like the centered part of you goes, we get to focus on your mission in life. We get to focus on your purpose in life. We don't need to focus on what Carol from accounting is doing. We're not worried about whether I'm going to get my 3% raise at the end of the year. We're not worried about what some boss is going to say at my 6-month evaluation. If you're listening to this and you're ready to make a change, I want you to understand this is not a change for the lighthearted. This is something that will change your entire life. And I'm reminded of that famous poem, Two Roads and the Road Less Traveled. This is the road less traveled. It is not the easy path in life. If you want the easy path in life, continue working the 9 to 5, continue making a salary, and continue wondering what all these other weird, cool people are doing. Or continue life and hope that when you actually do retire at 62 or 65 or 75 or whenever you're actually able to retire and you have enough money to do the things you said you wanted to do when you were 35 or 25. This is not a life we choose to wait to do what we want to do. We do what we choose now. We do what we choose because that's when we choose to do it. That said, before I scare everyone off, oh my God, this guy wants to completely turn my life upside down. It is worth it. Okay, it is worth it because it puts you in control. And if you're like most people that work in a corporate lifestyle, maybe they feel trapped by a mortgage, maybe they feel trapped by debt or a car or their furniture, their $500,000 house, whatever. It is a very freeing feeling to realize what is actually important, and it's not the stuff. I have a checked bag. I've got a carry-on. I've got a computer bag. I can literally take everything I own, everything that's important to me, put it on my back, carry it with a handle, and go. I'm not stuck. I'm not stranded. I'm not waiting for someone else to do the thing I want to do. So.
Right. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I appreciate all the stuff that you've shared with my audience, and some of it was some good information for me as well. So thank you very much, Chris.
Of course.
Alrighty. Well, that's Chris Backe from BecomeADigitalNomad.com and the book Become a Digital Nomad. And this is the part where I tell people what I learned from the show, and you're welcome to stay and listen, or you can hang up. It's up to you.
I'm happy to listen, sir. Be my guest. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. All right. So, so What I've learned again from Chris is that if we're going to do these things, we have to take actions. In the case of being a nomad, we have to declutter. We have to decide what it is we actually have to have versus what it is that is something we're used to as part of our expected lifestyle. We get into the big questions of should and should not, and I think those are really important because, as Louise Hayes said, they're two of the most dangerous expressions in the human language. But I've noticed that Chris is a decision maker. He takes risks, but he has to make a lot of decisions, and it comes down to a question of who do you want to be? Do you want to be somebody who is taking action, taking risks, making mistakes, falling down, getting back up, but enjoying the process? Or do you want to be somebody who's going to enjoy the safety that comes, or the apparent safety that comes from working for somebody else for a living and going to a job where you can pretty much expect what it'll be every day? I think that there are a lot of good reminders about we have to focus on what's important, which is probably why even I should spend less time on social media than I do. And I think it's just really curious that we're starting to have more and more people doing things the way he's doing them, and we're having this whole culture shift from expected to grow up and get a real job to I want to do what Chris does, or I want to do what David Rafe does, and maybe I want to do what Max does. So at the end of the show, I just want you guys to remember that if Chris can do this, if I can do this, then what is your excuse? It's been another episode of the What's Your Excuse show. You can find me at theblindblogger.net. If you're looking to hire somebody to get you booked on podcasts and radio shows so you can share your story and reach a wider audience, then I'm your guy. You can go to my online publicity page and find out more about how I do that and what's involved. Until next time, thank you. God bless you and take care out there. I'll never reach my destination if I never try. So I will sail my vessel until the river runs dry.